evening, my name is Conklin McLeod with NBN's local news. Tonight, an Upper Hunter MP calls on feds and the state to get the money moving. Surf Life Saving New South Wales urging a lot of caution after a warning of a double tragedy in Lake Macquarie and the Central Coast, as well as Newcastle and the Hunter. And Leo Thompson to be a knight until at least 2025. But first tonight, an Upper Hunter MP has called for swifter action from his own government and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to make funding available for broke residents devastated by this month's floods. 3 weeks after a swollen Wallumbye Brook ripped through Broke, the village still resembles a disaster zone. Flood-damaged furniture, clothing and white goods are piled up on the streets. Residents have quickly told us that their homes are facing repair bills of up to $80,000 and some may not be able to return to their homes for more than 12 months. Around 30 erosion holes in the area have swallowed fences and some structures with a section of Broke Road completely destroyed, cutting the town's main connection to Singleton. Surf Life Saving New South Wales is urging caution after 4 drownings in coastal parts of the state. That includes in Newcastle, the Hunter, as well as 2 on the border of Lake Macquarie and the Central Coast in the past fortnight. The rescue agency said the latest tragedy at Moonee Beach, where an 80-year-old woman from North Epping in Sydney and her 70-year-old husband were swept into the water from a rock shelf this week, showed the inherent dangers that remote sections of coastline present. But in the past 5 years at Fraser Park, close to where this week's tragedy unfolded, lifeguards have conducted 116 rescues and 500 first aid treatment. 14 people have died in the area around Snapper Point, Moonee Beach and Fraser Park in the past 10 years. The couple who died this week were believed to be walking to the well-known but hard-to-reach Pink Caves when they struck trouble. The Newcastle Knights player's selfless act that could have easily never made it into the public domain. But Hunter Mama Free, Felicity Garland, feels it needs highlighting. Felicity is mum to 7-year-old boy Riley, who has spent about 4 of the past 6 months in hospital, either going through chemotherapy for his high-risk form of leukemia or battling the side effects and sickness it has brought his way. Riley was diagnosed with T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia in January this year. In a life-changing shock for the young boy and the Rayway family. Due to start Year 2 at Rutherford Public School early this year, he is yet to attend class this year. So when young Riley got a surprise hospital visit from Newcastle Knights props Jacob and Daniel Saifidi back in April, it was a much needed lift for the family. Felicity was so grateful for the brothers spending time with Riley, who now had two favourite players. But she thought the interaction during one of the round Knights players often do with John Hunter Children's Hospitals would end there. Business deals negotiated at Hunter Street's 727 HQ will quite literally be high level as the city's tallest commercial building reaches new heights. The roughly $107 million project celebrated a major milestone this week with a topping out ceremony, towering over other commercial buildings across the city at 60 metres in height. It's the latest in a slew of developments transforming the face of Newcastle's West End, in a precinct designed to be both earthquake-proof and recession-proof, core project group director Courtney Knight said. The state's road workers are the latest to take industrial action as calls continue for the New South Wales government to change its wages policy. Like the teaching, nursing and other public service sectors, the Australian Workers Union, or the AWU, says the 3% wage increase for 2022-23, with the possibility of an extra 0.5% the following year that the government has offered, effectively leaves workers going financially backwards, given rising inflation. About 800 road workers and angry construction crews across the state took 24-hour strike action on Thursday, with a contingent gathering in Newcastle's Civic Park to rally. Chris Joanna has listed his family home in Carrington. The former Silverchair bassist is relocating to Coffs Harbour on the mid-north coast to be closer to his wife's family, prompting the sale of their home of 8 years. However, he expects to make regular visits to Newcastle, where he still oversees a number of venues, including the Criterion Hotel and Flotilla. The 3-bedroom home is tucked around the corner from the Carrington Bowling Club and boasts lead light windows, ornate ceilings and pine floors. Researchers at the University of Newcastle have said that a national plan is needed to manage the coast as the climate changes. Associate Professor Hannah Power and Dr. Michael Kinzeler say coastal management has typically been piecemeal, reactionary, and remedial. Hunter communities face tough decisions in future on building seawalls to protect beaches, replacing lost sand and moving coastal infrastructure. In some cases, shorelines may have to be moved back as the ocean erodes land. Meanwhile, researchers at the University of Newcastle are seeking to highlight the issue amid the need to adapt to a changing climate. Rebecca Hardy is proof that dreams can come true. Meanwhile, Callahan College students, of course, that includes Hardy and Sam Waters, who are both 16, play the lead characters of Sandy Olsen and Danny Zuko in the college's production of Grease, which is the first musical to bring together students from the Jesmond Senior Campus and Wallsend and Waratah Junior campuses. It is also the first to be performed in Jesmond's new auditorium. Diocese of Maitland Newcastle Director of Catholic Schools Gerard Mowbray will retire from the role in December. Mr. Mowbray has spent over more than 40 years working for the diocese in a career that has spanned both teaching and leadership roles. Mr. Mowbray started working as a teacher at St. Mary's Catholic College at Gateshead in 1977 before moving into various teaching assistant principal and principal roles across the diocese. He became assistant director of schools in 2009 and director of schools in 2018, replacing Michael Slattery. The diocese has opened 3 new schools in recent years. Catherine McCauley Catholic College up in Medowie, the St. Bede's Catholic College in Chisholm, and the St. Aloysius Primary School in Chisholm. It has expanded St. Mary's Gateshead and St. Joseph's College in Lochinvar to include years 11 and 12. The brother of a man stabbed to death in Parkley Jail had to be removed from the New South Wales Supreme Court on Thursday after a jury found Belmont man Emmett Sheard was acting in self-defense during the frenzied knife fight. Mr. Sheard was found not guilty of murder and manslaughter over the death of 33-year-old Michael Black. The jury left with no doubt he was defending himself after being attacked twice and slashed in the chin during a dispute over buprenorphine. Mr. Sheard walked free from the dock after more than 2 years behind bars awaiting trial. The verdict triggered an outpouring of emotion in the public gathering where a man shouted, "He stabbed my brother to death, and this is a joke." Meanwhile, Justice Natalie Adams repeatedly asked the man not to make threats before ordering he be removed from the courtroom. She said this, "I know you're upset, but this is a court of law and you cannot make threats." Meanwhile, 2 other men, Matthew Bennis, who was granted bail during the trial and promptly absconded, and Luke Welford were also acquitted to assessing Mr. Sheard in the aftermath of the stabbing. Virtuoso musician Rawdon Titan Payne or Big Daddy Roy Payne, as he was known on stage, was farewelled yesterday by 120 friends and family, still reeling from his unexpected death at the age of 54. One of his 3 children, son Vincent O'Malley, said the tragic sequence of events that took his father's life began just a few weeks ago with an infected cut and ended on July the 6th with an aortic aneurysm. Payne may not have been a big name performer, but he was a musician's musician. and a steward since moving from Sydney of the Newcastle blues and roots music scene. He was also a guitarist in Cold Chisel songwriter Don Walker's backing band, The Save. Roy and his colleagues were immortalised by Walker in a 2015 Chisel Work Out the Backroom about Dougie and Glenna Ray's tiki bar and set Down by the Hunter where the coal trucks roll. Walker sat at the back of the service of James Murray funerals yesterday, one of many to come from outside of the region to pay their respects. The Hunters domestic violence sector has welcomed the federal government's plan to provide abuse survivors with access to paid level entitlements. If passed by Parliament, the changes to the Fair Work Act would allow any Australian worker, including casuals, to access 10 days of paid family and domestic violence leave. Newcastle Domestic Violence Committee Chairperson Lisa Ronberg said the introduction of the legislation was fantastic and a long time coming. She says the Australian Services Union started the campaign for the entitlement at about a decade ago. Around 1.3 million employees currently have access to paid family and domestic violence leave, but the legislation will lift this by 11 million. Well, after just a few decades and after 37 years, the Australian soap opera Neighbours is no more. And also, plenty of fans across Newcastle and the Hunter quickly tuned in to watch the 90-minute final of the long-running soap on Thursday night, as it said its final goodbye. It also stars with the old and new quickly returned as part of its emotional farewell. Sports up next, as the Knights extend Leo Thompson's contract till 2025.
Into big business now, are we?
No, I'm quite happy with the small business I own, Louise.
Who are you banking with now, Bob?
Newcastle Permanent.
No, I know. I mean your company banking.
Yeah, we're with the firm.
Didn't know they did business banking.
Well, they have done for quite some time now, Dad.
Oh, good move.
That's mine. Thank you.
Your business is in good hands with Newcastle Permanent.
They're our building society.
Wake up in the morning, gotta get because the Herald is the best way to start your day.
Rugby League, and Knights Chief Executive Philip Gardner has reaffirmed his support for struggling coach Adam O'Brien and dismissed suggestions that Newcastle's roster needs a complete overhaul. O'Brien has come under scrutiny this year after Newcastle's dramatic fall from the top four hopefuls to wooden spoon candidates. Having finished 7th in both his first 2 seasons at the helm, Newcastle are controversially languishing in 14th position with only 6 games to play. Still on the Knights, and their emerging forward Leo Thompson will be at the club until the end of the 2025 NRL season after signing a fresh contract. Thompson, a rugby union convert who the Knights recruited from the Raiders last year, has been a regular in Newcastle's side this season, playing in 16 of 18 games. The 22-year-old Kiwi, who was initially signed on a 2-year deal the first year as a development player, was upgraded to the top 30 roster ahead of this year's competition, commencing after a standout pre-season. But he has now signed a new deal, which will extend his stay at the club by a further 2 years. Meanwhile, Emma Manselman considers herself one of the lucky ones, an apprentice mechanic back home. The 20-year-old rake has been able to put her job on hold to rejoin the Knights for the club's second NRLW campaign. While some of the NRLW players, especially those who relocate, have to leave jobs to take part in the competition or are restricted to working roles outside of footy that allow them to play, Manzelman has been able to take the required 2 to 3 months leave from a hometown apprenticeship. A dual gold medalist, 2 defending champions, more than half fresh from major international events, 5 debutantes and 6 females meet the 8 Hunter athletes representing Australia at this year's Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Flying the local flag over the next 11 days of competition will be Mayweather's Rose Davies and the athletes, Mayweather's Christy Dawes in the athletics, North's defender Matthew Dawson in the hockey, Lambton Pool graduate Sam Fricker in the diving, Maitland-based Abby Harkin in the swimming, Cameron Park's Jesse Southwell in the rugby sevens, and of course Raymond Terrace Bowling Club's Natasha Van Elder in lawn bowls, and South striker Maria Williams in hockey. Meanwhile, Jesse Southwell clearly recalls Australia's landmark Olympic gold medal from 2016 and how it changed the way that everyone saw girls play rugby. 6 years on, now aged 17, the Novocastrian is a member of that same women's sevens squad and has her own shot at history. To soccer, and in the Hunters NPL competition, Canadian Tyrone Mulder again provided a goal, and Brody Volkine rose to the challenge in goals as Valentine put another dent in Lambton Jaffers' premiership defence. The Phoenix defeated the Jaffers 1-0 at Lake Macquarie Regional Football Facility in a catch-up game on Wednesday night. Storm and New Lambton will join the Hunters NPL competition next year, taking the number of clubs to 12. Northern New South Wales Football made the announcement on Thursday, saying that New Lambton had exceeded the requirements of the club development rating system, which measures criteria such as youth development, coaching, governance, organisational structure, facilities and finance. The promotion of New Lambton follows the addition of Cooks Hill to the top to the top men's tier this year. They sit ninth on 12 points from 13 games. Australia League and the Newcastle Jets will open their 2022-23 campaign with an F3 derby against arch rivals the Central Coast, right up at Central Coast Stadium on October 8, and play the majority of their home games at family-friendly weekend times. The draw for the upcoming A-League was released by the Australian Professional League on Thursday, with the Jets-Mariners clash not the only high-stakes encounter of round one. Meanwhile, Tomato Sport and Hunter driver Christian Mansell will take another step towards achieving his Formula One dream when he races on the same program as motorsport's elite class. The 17-year-old, who relocated from the Maitland suburb of Bolivar to England in 2020, says he's super excited about stepping up to making his Formula 3 debut with Tyrrell's Racing Systems in Hungary this weekend. To the weather, it was alright for Newcastle, as well as for Nelson Bay and Wallsend and Toronto. It was also right for Wyong, Raymond Terrace and Maitland. It was also okay for Singleton and Cessnock and Muswellbrook. Meanwhile, the high tide is at 8:53, while the low is at 2:17. That's it for this Friday. From all of us here, good night.